You are listening to ProveText, a GlossaHouse podcast exploring scripture with Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb and Dr. Fredrick J. Long. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to ProveText. Michael Halcomb here with Dr. Fredrick J. Long. And we are continuing to discuss verbs today on the platter present tense verbs. The way we say present tense in Koine Greek is enestos chronos. Enestos chronos, present tense. Enestos chronos. So, Fred, tell us a little bit about what is the present tense, and then maybe after that we can talk about sort of the formation of various present tense verbs.
Yeah, the present tense is a tense that has that is trying to describe things as happening in the present time frame generally, although there are particular uses of the present tense in Greek. But generally, it's trying to refer to something in the present time, except in these special uses. And the present tense in Greek has a verbal aspect of imperfective verbal aspect, which tends to describe things as ongoing, open, happening.
Yeah.
We might translate it like I see or I am seeing. So in English, it's kind of tricky because we can translate the Greek present tense in two ways, probably even more, but simple present, I see, or a present progressive, I am seeing. And it just kind of depends on the context, what sounds good in English to do it. So we have to remember that the Greeks were conceptualizing events when they used the present tense generally as kind of ongoing kinds of things. But that may not always sound appropriate in our ears to translate it every present tense Greek as progressive present. I am seeing, I am talking, they are walking, whatever. So there has to be a little bit of understanding of English as our target language to translate the present tense. The most important thing, though, is to know that it conveys imperfective verbal aspect, construing generally present time frame.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about the formation?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the indicative, not middle. I'm thinking voice here, right? So we have various different forms.
The omega conjugation.
There you go. I like that.
So there's omega conjugation. O, is, e, omen, eta, usin. That's the active present ending.
Do you put the omicron there with omen and eta? You consider the omicron and the epsilon as part of the ending? I always consider those cushion morphemes.
Yeah, they're often taught the same. Yeah, I guess I call them a connecting vowel that's combining with them. So it's different ways that you can learn these endings. You can learn them in terms of primary endings or secondary endings that then are combined with a connecting syllable or vowel and then put onto the verb stem. There's different ways that you can learn these endings in the formation, and there's some benefits of one and benefits of another. So what I just gave you were the final form for regular verbs, but you got contract verbs, you got contract verbs, you got liquid verbs, in which these are the same. You also have me formation, the me conjugation. So those have different sets of endings: me, seen, men, te, seen. Now, if you had learned the basic primary endings, a lot of those would be the same. Men, te are the same in the first person plural, like omen and men. That's the same for omega or me verbs. So there are some benefits to learning the the basic raw ending before the coupling vowel or coupling syllable. Those combine, and then they're added to the stem. So yeah, if you can break those apart, see the patterns, that can help you. So those, that's very helpful, Michael.
So you just use the term stem. So let's when you're using the term stem, that's a linguistic term. What do you mean by that?
Well, in my chapter 2 of Kine Greek Grammar, I distinguish root and stem. Root is a more basic historical part of a word that we don't ever find alone. We're always finding it beginning to have endings on it. And as soon as you go from a root, the basic core root of a word, like the basic essential part of it, once you start to get that with endings on it, you have what's called a stem. And the stem converts the root often even towards a certain part of speech. So verb stems have certain kind of endings on them, or like endings of the root. The root gets converted. So, for example, the same thing happens with nouns and adjectives. You can start to recognize the shape of the root because it's already forming a little bit more, preparing it for the endings that are appropriate for the part of speech, whether it's a verb, noun, adjective. And so the stem is what we begin to actually see in actual living text as it's being used. And on that stem then are given endings, suffixes, and sometimes prefixes. So the stem is a part of a word, the essential part of a word that we begin seeing in live, lived, spoken, written Greek text. Abstract.
For example, graph and grapho would be the root, but grapho would be the stem.
Mm-hmm. Deke. I give the example of deke, that is the basis for justice. And man, there's a gazillion ways that is formed out. You have dikeo sune. That sune ending, it's a noun ending, righteousness or justice. Dikeo. But there's a setup to it. You have a dikeao, which is to justify. So again, the basic root dik, delta iota kappa, starts to be adding certain things to it to prepare it for its endings. Well, that preparatory step is called a stem. And so, I have those listed out. It's pretty amazing. And actually, this stem, this root deke for justice, is actually related to another root deke with an epsilon iota, which means to show or to demonstrate. And so there's some relationship between justice and like being true to what is seen. And so it's really interesting, the history of these words. But once you can recognize a root, it may help you then to learn some rules about forming stems upon which endings are put in the formation of words. So the verb stem is kind of this preparatory thing that is ready for the endings to be placed onto it.
Which we call a lemma?
Yeah, so once those endings are on it, then it's a lemma is a lived-in kind of seen and experienced entity in a discourse. A lemma.
It's a little hard to parse out root and stem, how you're describing it. That's a little bit challenging, but yeah.
I'd have to, I just opened up my chapter. We'll see if I can read it quickly, how I differentiate those. Actually, it's not until chapter, no, there it is. Each word slightly changes the root into its particular stem, depending on the part of speech or particular class of noun each word is. So, Yeah, a root. A Greek word is composed of a stem produced from a root plus endings. A root may be used to form different stems to form different parts of speech. So,
But in some instances, a root and a stem then can be the same
yes, right.
thing. They look exactly
Yeah,
alike.
they can be
Okay,
exactly
that's
alike.
helpful.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can be
Okay.
exactly.
But in some instances, they don't look exactly alike.
Yeah.
They slightly morph.
Yeah.
I see.
So the root didac is used to form didactos, instructed, didaskalos, teacher, didasko,
Gotcha.
I teach, or didake, doctrine. But they all come from didac. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because I just did one of those vocabulary episodes where I was saying that the root was da, using that exact example. But, yeah, so I get it now. I get what you're saying now. That helps me parse it out a little bit. That sometimes a root and a stem can look exactly alike, but other times they don't.
Yeah. So in the case of
in the
case of didac, is that like a little reduplication then, the delta iota,
I think so.
intensify that?
Yeah. I think so.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, interesting. We're getting into some stuff here. I like that we're learning too as we go along, teaching each other, not just teaching everybody else, teaching each other. So that's good. Well, hopefully it's been an interesting episode for y'all who are listening. If you like what we're doing here at GlossaHouse, you like provetext, make sure you actually like it. Like, click the like button. Subscribe. We have a lofty goal that we've set in-house for each of our social media things this year, that we're trying to get a certain number of subscribers, or hoping to get a certain number of subscribers by the end of the year 2023. So if you haven't subscribed to us yet, please do that on whatever channel you're watching or listening. And most importantly, share. Hit that share button and share us with your family, friends, enemies, whoever you want to share us with.
Especially
all right,
enemies.
Fred, thanks for your insight. Yeah, thanks for your insight, and we
you too,
appreciate
Michael.
it. Hope that
Take
helped.
care.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? GlossaHouse can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, GlossaHouse offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. GlossaHouse, language resources for the global community.